Hello YouTube. It's been a while since I made my last video, but I got this cool new tool today. It is a Tormek DBS 22, and this is designed to sharpen drill bits. So I've got the new tool here, got my handy dandy wet sharpener there after I show you what's in the box, and then I got some drill bits. So we'll start out, we'll try one that's really easy to work with. We'll do this 1/2 inch bit. We'll see how it does. So I've got an instruction book, a Torlock knob, then I've got the actual base, and it slides, and I've got a magnifier that comes with it in the box, template for setting the lip clearance angle, and then a drill bit holder. And then there's some PTFE lubricant in here. And that's about it. Okay, so nobody wants to use these. I watched the video. It was pretty cool. So these are the main parts of the DBS 22. Never used it before. Watched a little video on it. That's about it. And then pull out our drill bit here. So I've got a 1/2 inch drill bit. If this goes really well, I plan to figure out how to sharpen this. It's a step bit. I use these a lot when I'm installing doors, and they're very expensive. So like a bit like this is about 50 bucks. So this is what I really want to learn to sharpen. But in the meantime, we're going to start on this, see how it goes. So I'm going to move over to the sharpening machine now. Cool. This is a continuation of my drill jig that I just bought. I had so much trouble with it on my old jet sharpener. I think my sharpener was out of round or something, but even with the Trude Stone, it felt like it was felt like there was a hump in the drive wheel or something like that. So I went out and bought a new sharpener. So I got this Tormek. I did a little box unboxing video on it, and I'll post that on the channel too. But back to the drill sharpening jig that I just bought. So there's a couple of components to this. There's the angle guide, which has got magnets on it, so you can just stick it to whatever surface you want to stick it to. Stick it to the side of the cabinet right there. Then you've got the slider plate right here, which I showed you already. So then there's the drill bit holder, and there's the magnifying glass. So believe it or not, I tried it yesterday. I had awful results. There was a big learning curve there. I probably worked on it till about 11 o'clock last night. I think I've worked through the parts of the learning curve, and I'll show you where I had trouble with it at. And then maybe that'll help somebody else that gets a new one. You know, all the videos that I've seen online, it seems to work perfectly the first time out of the box. I didn't really have that experience. I think there were a number of factors involved. I think I had, on my old sharpener, I think I had some movement here. And I think my wheel probably was impossible to true it properly. And I think those were some problems. And then there were some learning curves with the jig itself, and I'll tell you about those. So I've got this drill bit here that I'm going to sharpen. Looks like it's about a 3/16, something like that. It's eat up pretty bad. So if you can see the tip of it. But we're going to try to sharpen this. We're going to use the drill bit sharpener. So the first thing is, this is the base plate, okay? And if you look right here, there's these little ridges that show you, it's a guide for you to decide what the angle of your drill bit is. The guy in the video I saw said you're almost always going to use 118 degrees, and then the first drill bit I did was 130 degrees. So it's not 20. I got a pretty big gap there. It's not 118. Got a pretty good big gap there. See a lot of light in 120. 130 looks pretty close. 135. 135 is dead on. Okay. So even though the video I watched said you're almost exclusively going to use 118 degrees, this Milwaukee bit is actually 135. So I'm going to go up to that and lock it down. So if you see right there, now I'm locked down at 135 degrees. So I use the drill bit, the existing degrees, to see what my angle would be. Then I locked it down. And it shows right there. So the main problem I had learning curve wise was when I watched the video online, I thought the guy was making all his adjustments here. On your primary bevel, this is where you make your adjustments. This is the locking knob, and this is your adjustment knob. And then when I went to go to the secondary bevel, I was actually turning the same knob. But what I found out is there's a little knob right here that you turn for your secondary bevel, and I didn't realize that. And that was I ruined a drill bit. I think I got it fixed, but I ruined my first drill bit like that. So this is where you make the adjustment for your secondary bevel. It took me a little while to figure that out. And then the other thing is the jig kept wobbling on me like that, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And there's actually places here designed for you to put your fingers. So 2 fingers go there. And then on your drill bit holder, there's actually a place here for your fingers and a place here for your fingers. So it's actually smoothed out so you can put your fingers on there. And if you put your fingers in those places, it keeps it from wobbling. So it took me about an hour to figure that out, okay? And then the other critical part is lining the drill bit. And that part's pretty easy once you figure out what you're trying to line on your drill bit. So to set this up, you take the this guide here, you put that hole through that part right there. And you push up against the front of it. The first time I tried it, I pushed up against the back, and I couldn't even get the drill bit to touch the stone. So you have this side of the template when you're putting it on. And supposedly that sets the bar about 14 millimeters away from the stone. So we got it in right there, so we'll lock it down. Everything locked down. It's in there pretty good and it slides out. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is check our stone and see how true it is. So I've got an angle square here. This is a Woodpecker's mini square. I've had it for a couple years. It's always been very, very accurate. So I'm going to put this on here to make sure my stone is square. And from right out of the box, this is pretty neat. So it's pretty square. So then put your table and slide on here. It's pretty neat. This thing is not exactly round. It's off a little bit, and that's supposed to make it tighten up a lot easier with a lot less pressure on the knob when you put it on there. And it went on there smooth as glass. So then you take your little angle template again, and depending on the size of the drill bit is what angle you put it at. So this is from 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. It's 6 degrees. I'm sorry, 14 degrees. This bit that we have here is actually set my calipers up real quick. So this bit that I have in my hand is actually 1/4 of an inch. And I don't know what the deal was with this bit, but I bought it. This is a Milwaukee drill bit set I bought, and the first time I pulled it out of the box, it wouldn't cut. I hope it's not that angle that it was at, but if it is, we can change it now because we have a drill bit sharpener. So this is 1/4 of an inch, and it says 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch drill bits are supposed to be done at 14 degrees. So we've got our 14-degree thingy there. Put that on our table. Slide that up to where it matches on our wheel. Bam, we're at 14 degrees. So we set the distance back with this template. Then we set the angle that the blade is going to, or that the bit is going to be sharpened at with this template. And so now we've got our angle set, got our distance back set. Now we have to put the bit in the holder. So when you put the bit in the holder, you're supposed to line the cutting edges up with these two lines right here. I had a little trouble with that before. That might be part of the learning curve. Could be just that I'm getting old and can't see the bit as well. And so there's a little place right here for you to line up the distance that it sticks out of the jig. And this is not a critical distance, I don't believe, but you want to be real close. And then we'll tighten it up. So then we'll look down the end of it to try to get our alignment. Back it off just a shade. Get our alignment. So I got the alignment right there. So I'll verify it up against this. Looks like we're good to go. And then they give you this little cool magnifier. And it's got an alignment tool in it so that you can look through and see how close you are. And I'm pretty dang close. So this is the critical alignment thing. So you got to get this right or your bit's going to be all crazy looking and it's not going to have that freshly machined look to it. But it looks like I've got it lined up. So then put this on here. So if you look at this table, you got a P and an S. So P is for your primary bevel and S is for your secondary bevel. So I'm going to put this on my primary bevel right here. And then see how close I am to my stone. I'm not very close. Actually, I need to put some water in here. Well, I filled it up to the fill line. Good to go. Seems to make a lot less mess than my other one. I guess we'll find out when we start sharpening. Then we'll turn it on. The button's on top on this one instead on the other side, which is kind of neat. And then what I'm going to do is advance my drill bit until I hear it touch. Loosen up my locking knob, advance my drill bit. All right, so I hear it touch. So now I'll turn the machine off. And then each revolution of this knob is a 1/2 millimeter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and advance it a 1/2 millimeter. And then tighten up my locking knob. Okay, so I've got it aligned. I've got it where it's touching the stone. I've picked how much of a how deep I'm going to cut into how much steel I'm going to take off the bit, which in this case is a 1/2 millimeter. I've got my angle set up. So let's give it a try and see how it does. So we'll turn the machine back on. And get our water trough up there so we got water going. This thing seems, at first glance, this sharpener seems a lot less messy than my last one. So advance the bit until it's scraping. You put your fingers there, you put your fingers there. Just move smoothly across the wheel until your cut starts to tail off. I got a lot less movement in the table than I had with the jet sharpener. Took that off. And it's So I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if this is close enough, but this side has been done and this is the old nasty side. It looks pretty accurate. So now we'll flip it over and do the other side. So again, we put this on here so that it touches the, so we've already got the depth set. So now we just push it to where it touches our primary bevel. Actually, we stop when we're touching our primary bevel. Put our fingers in the spot that holds it. Slide it back and forth until the sound changes. So look at that. So that's pretty perfectly aligned right there. So just to give you an idea, that's kind of what it looks like now. And now there's a secondary bevel to make this a 4-point bit or a 4-bevel bit that gives you a point that doesn't walk, which is the whole reason I got the thing. Sorry for the cough. So to set this up for the secondary bevel, you just drop the table down, put your bit in here so that it's touching your secondary little wheel right there, and then you tilt it back up just so it's touching. You need to push it back up from the bottom of the table, because otherwise there's a little separation here and it's enough that you won't even be touching the wheel when you get done. Make sure it's scraping. Yep, so it's scraping. And so then you use this secondary wheel here to get your depth of cut on your bit. So we're going to go down a 1/2 millimeter on this, and that's 1 full revolution. There we go, that's a 1/2 millimeter. So now we'll start our wheel back up, put our fingers in the right places, and advance into the cut. Well, that was fast. Oh wow, so we got a neat little secondary bevel on there, so we'll try it on the other side. Again, we've already set the depth, so we just need to advance into that. Wow, so that's a pretty neat looking bit. So I think I'm going to advance another 1/4 millimeter into it just to make the cutting point a little bit sharper and make it a little more centered. So what I'll do is I'll rotate this a 1/2 revolution, which will give me a 1/4 millimeter of advance. So we'll put it in there. Make sure you're up against the S, and then advance into the cut. Tell you, the one thing this thing will do is let you understand the subtle differences in your cutting wheel. So you can hear every little bump and dip. But this Tormek wheel is much more accurate than my jet was. Subtle things that you can't really tell unless you try something different. But it is a whole lot smoother and more accurate than the jet grinder was. I could be saying that because I spent $720 on this, but it actually does feel like it's better. I tell you, this wheel really seems to cut better than the old jet one did too. Okay, so that is a 4-facet bit, or a 4-facet angle put on this bit. That's kind of the way it looks now, and supposedly that's supposed to stop it from walking around a little bit. So now I'll strop it a little bit just to make sure that the edges are nice and clean, get any burr off of it. Turn our machine off. So now the ultimate test, right? Will it drill? So I have a piece of hard maple here. Before this drill bit, you had to push on it as hard as you could, and it would just burn. And it was like that from the factory. I don't know what the deal is. So now that we've sharpened it, let's see what it does. Seems to cut like butter. I don't see any burn marks on it. So I'm gonna call that a win. I took a bit that wouldn't cut at all, and now it seems to cut pretty well and pretty fast. And well, it didn't take too long. Thanks, YouTube.